Hello. So, this part is about the emotions and all the feelings that we have as human beings. And it's normal for many different things to come up. For sadness to be there, for anger to be there, for happiness to be there, for joy, peace, for basically anything that you feel. It's all normal. It's part of this human life. And it's important to learn how to actually feel and not to avoid, not to go around those feelings and just really stay with them for what they are. So, the question is, how does one do that? How does one actually learn how to face those emotions, how to transform them, how to make them become lighter, and what are they actually trying to show us? So that is one of the biggest main questions in this course. And let's begin by talking about the different emotions and what they are actually there to show you. Because that's a key aspect of actually understanding why am I feeling this way. And it's not important for the emotion to understand why it's there, but it's more important for your brain to get it. Why is it like this? And if your brain can accept it for what it is, then it's going to become a lot easier for you to also be able to manage and to feel those emotions, because you know why it's there, because it has a certain value, because it validated, it's just going to become easier. So let's start with anger. I feel like that's one key emotion which is being suppressed so much and which people just don't know how to handle. So anger is there to show you when you are overstepping your boundaries, or it can also look like other people are overstepping your boundaries. So in every moment that you feel lightly irritated, it begins like a kind of frustration. Then you can know something is going on that is against your own beliefs, against your own intuition. Anything that is going on can be something that's not aligned with you. Even if your brain tells you it's good, that's a good idea, let's do that, and something in you just feels like, not really. And then if you ignore that emotion at the beginning, if you ignore that first frustration that you have, then it might just get bigger. Because you're basically ignoring yourself. You're choosing your brain over your emotions that you have. And then they keep accumulating and becomes bigger. This tends to happen especially in relationships. Like, you have your partner and you don't want to hurt them, so you don't speak about anything that irritates you. So all of that anger just gets put on top of each other, and at one point it can explode, and then the relationship can end. That's just one example. But it's just a normal way of us, because we never learned how to really transform those emotions. We never learned how to deal with them. And with anger especially, it's just so hard, because we have this feeling, this voice in our head that anger is bad, that it's destructive, that is, it's gonna cause chaos, and it's just gonna be very bad for the people around you. You will hurt someone, and you can't be angry, you cannot raise your voice, you cannot punch something, because you're just gonna be hurtful if you let that anger out. So we just don't do it because it's not accepted in the society. And that's very, very unhealthy, because we just keep all of that bottled inside of us, and everything gets tighter, like especially as solar plexus gets tighter, we begin maybe even having pain somewhere, or our jaw gets just so tight because we are not voicing out what we actually feel. We are not voicing our own truth. And there might be moments where we feel like, this is not the right setting to let it out. I'm gonna do it later. And that's fine if you still do it, if you can reconnect to how you have truly felt in that moment. Because, like, after a while, you don't really truly feel the same as you have in the moment. Like, that's also a thing about primary and secondary emotions. Like, the primary ones are that what is going on in the moment. If you feel triggered and frustrated, and then with time, that might turn into sadness and shame and guilt because you're not being able to speak up for yourself, because you're letting others walk all over you. And that might cause all of these new emotions to build on top of that. So it's going to be harder to access that anger and frustration you have felt because there is so much on the top of it. And how to deal with that? Well, basically, you have built all of those layers, and now you have to put all of those layers out again. And anger is just one which is hard to deal with, especially for women. For men, it's a bit easier, because men don't cry and women shouldn't get angry. That's like the stereotype that we have. And how to release anger, where there are different methods for emotional release doing that. You can actually just grab a pillow and scream into it, because that's a way which is safe. You are not hurting anyone else. Your neighbors might wonder why you are screaming, but with the pillow it helps to keep it a bit more quiet. And it's just a good way to release it, because when learning to release anger, you don't want to actually be screaming at people or punching them and letting your frustration out on them, because they are not really the cause of the problem. That what you are doing yourself is the cause, because they might be triggering you, but the emotion is coming up because of the way you are reacting to that trigger. So, just in that moment when you feel like it might be able for you to, take a moment and tell the person, I need to take a minute for myself, and then go to another room and grab a pillow and just go, Whoa! And that is so good. So I'm gonna go again, and you can do it with me. Yeah, so that already feels so much lighter. And it's so hard for us to start doing this. I remember how hard it was for me. How I began doing it is I grabbed tissues, because they are smaller and it's like an easy way to begin with. And I also when I get frustrated, I tend to do stuff with my hands. So I started ripping apart the tissues, and I ripped so much tissue that I had to clean up my whole space after that. It was horrible. And then next time I was like, no, that was way too much cleaning, let's do it another way. Or ripping apart t-shirts, also amazing, just letting all of that out. Or taking a piece of paper and writing everything down that frustrates you, and then just putting all that anger out, and just making the whole page go black with your pen, or things like that, or burning all of those things that are that you are getting so angry about. So there are many different methods for that to become lighter, and that will help you on your path, because it will be so much easier for you to notice, when am I becoming angry? At what moment am I going against myself? When am I letting someone else overstep my boundaries? What is going on in my system? You're going to become so much better at being able to pinpoint what exactly is going on in me. And then you will just know yourself better and will be able to handle life in itself in a wholly different way. And you might still be triggered, but it will be just easier to deal with everything that comes up, because you will have found tools for yourself how to deal with it. And that's beautiful. And there is another way which you can deal with it, and that's called de-armoring. It's also beautiful, and it talks about how the body stores emotions and traumas we have, and basically you can find a point which hurts and then press it and massage it and see anything comes up. And this is easier for people who already have a certain knowledge about this connection of the body and the emotions. Then it's easier for the emotions to come up through the body. But you can also just try it out yourself, and the solar plexus might be the easier way to start, and like pressing that point where the ribs meet and seeing if there's anything coming up. And then just opening up here, so just letting out any breath flow naturally, and just, and you might like feel some disgust or like you want to puke, and just letting any frustration out. And solar plexus, this point here, is especially good for anger, for disgust, for self-worth topics, for shame, for things like that, guilt. And you know, it's just a good method to work all of that out, and you can even like stroke it out and releasing it with your breath. So you can try all of those different methods out and see if they work for you, and just find something that works. So that was some parts about the anger. Let's go into sadness next. So sadness is a way to show you what you actually love, what you like. It's there to show you when you are missing positive sides. So through sadness, you can actually learn what is important to me. What is making me sad? Maybe I was sad because my parents didn't give me the love I felt like I deserved. And then you realize, oh, I actually find love to be something very important, or I find this connection with my parents very important. And you're sad because you didn't have it, because you value it so much. So sadness can show you the value that you have of certain things. You know, sadness might come up if you have to leave a place that you love, if you suddenly have to let go of friendships, and you feel sad because you let those connections go. And it's just a natural way for us to process those things, to process just this feeling of the connection going away, of this process of letting go, and then just surrendering to that sadness. And that is very hard for a lot of people, to actually feel sad. And you know, always when we feel hurt in a way which brings sadness up to us, why do we feel hurt? We feel hurt normally by people who mean something to us. Because, you know, we wouldn't care that much if like a stranger said something about us. Oh, like something, I don't know, you're fat. Like, you might care, but it wouldn't be that powerful as if a good friend said it to you. You know, that's like a difference, because you value the opinion of your friend way more than that of a stranger. At least that's what most people would do. And then you will feel hurt, and that might make you very sad, because your looks and the opinion of other people might be important to you, because you're not feeling as if you're worthy enough. So those are spaces where we are very vulnerable, and it's very hard to access them, because we have normally not learned how to be vulnerable. If you had parents, if you had a society around you who was able to hold you in that vulnerability, where you had a shoulder to cry on, where you had a space where you could open up and cry about all of those things that were making you sad, it's going to be more easier for you. But most of us grow up in a way where we shouldn't show emotions, where men shouldn't cry, where it's just, you know, crying is for babies, so we don't. We never learned how to, and we just can't. I think like I wouldn't show myself crying in front of people until I was like, I think 19. And before that, it happened when I was drunk or alone. But I never did it, you know. I found it like, why is someone crying, you know? You don't do that. Or like when people would cry because of movies, I was like, huh? Why? And like, I was very disconnected from my feelings. And that is a sign that something is going on in your system. You are cutting off your emotions and this ability to feel, because you feel as if you would, then it would be too overpowering. It could be hurtful in a way. It could be something which you have no control of. You couldn't be able to handle it. And there's basically some threat coming from that. Because you might not be accepted anymore, because people might feel weird of you, so you're cutting that off because of a certain threat coming with it. And how to be able to actually access sadness. There are different methods for that. Like for some people, it can be easy to watch a movie which makes them sad, because those movies have sometimes scenes in them which can be very triggering. Like you might like to watch movies about relationships between father and daughter if you have topics around that, or about adoption or mistreatment, or like many different topics. So you might want to like focus on something to help you access that more. And it can even be like documentaries about, I don't know, animal mistreatment and things like that, which can just help you access things better. It can also be sad music that will just influence your system a bit to make it easier to open. And I think the thing that helps the most is doing inner child work and just connecting to that vulnerable part in you, which cannot protect itself, which is maybe lonely, which is sad, which is maybe not feeling understood from the world. And just connecting to that space, to that vulnerable, deep space in you, and going into that, creating a safe space around you through cushions, pillows, having like a room where no one can come in and distract you, and just traveling into your unconsciousness and connecting with yourself, asking yourself, is there a place in me which is hurt? Is there anything going on? And usually the place that comes up is like the heart area. So it might help for you to like put your hands on your chest, to hug yourself and just be there for yourself. Because we sometimes feel as if we don't have someone there for us. And showing ourselves that we are there for ourselves is already very, very helpful. Just being there for you. And that's beautiful, you know, showing yourself you are safe. You can feel however you are feeling. It's all good. No one will judge you for that. And just learning how to connect with those places again might be a helpful step to actually access that sadness, because it might be hard at the beginning. So you want to create a way for it to become easier and easier. And breathwork might also be a way to reach sadness, also anger and other emotions. So you can try that out, like holotropic breathwork or many other breathwork practices that there are. Okay, so these were two main things. The next one is going to be like a conglomerate of jealousy, envy, desire. So this is something that we also see as negative, having jealousy over other people, but all of this jealousy is actually showing you what you might yourself want in life. You might be jealous of someone having such a nice body, or you might be jealous that someone has a relationship and you don't, or you might be jealous because someone has more money than you do. And it's all actually showing you what you want for yourself, but you feel you cannot manifest, which you feel you cannot reach. So it's showing you, she has such a nice body and I will never reach that. So I'm jealous. I want that, but I will not make it work. And at that point, you yourself can ask yourself, why? Why am I jealous? Like, how can I bring that into my life? How can I bring thankfulness to this jealousy showing me what I actually want? And it would just be a beautiful lesson if you actually know how to see the person, the thing you are jealous of, and see them as something positive, showing you, oh, I actually want that. I want a good car. because it might give me like a certain status, it might make me look good, or it's just comfortable and better, you know. It might be different reasons for you to feel that way. And you can just look, what is it in me that makes me feel jealous? Why do I want to have nicer hair? This girl has this hair and it looks so good. Like, I want that too. Am I able to do that for myself? Have this kind of hair? If not, like, is there another way I can accept my own hair? And it's all about accepting yourself and that what you have, if you're not able to get that what you're jealous of. Because, you know, you might not have that money to get that car, but you're still jealous. So how can you transform that? How can you transform just jealousy into acceptance? That's a hard one, you know, because suddenly you will have to face that topic of, okay, I don't have enough money, I want that car. Like, do I have to let go of my dream or desire? Do I have to just face it? Is there a way I can go for that? And it's going to be a big process of you just learning what you want, learning how to go for it, learning how to manifest it. And there are different ways of manifesting, you know, like vision boards, desire mapping. Like, there's a book, The Big Five of for Life, for example, and there are just so many different methods to try going for that what you want. And then you will realize, I can actually reach that in my life. I don't have to be jealous. Like, for me, an easy example is my hair, because it is like, it's not curly, it's not straight, it's just something that, you know, does its thing. And for a long time, I wasn't, you know, I was very unhappy and I would get jealous so much until I found a way to style my hair where I felt like it was good. I felt happy with it. And then I didn't get jealous anymore because I felt happy with myself. I started loving my own hair. So that was years ago. You know, now I really don't care anymore. It can look whatever. But I'm happy when it looks good. And so it's about self-love. You know, if you're jealous that someone gets to travel so much and see so much and reach so much, like, how can you do that for yourself? What is it showing you? Maybe it's showing you want to be more adventurous if you want to travel more. Maybe if you don't have that money for traveling, you can be adventurous in another way. Maybe it would be enough if you went out hiking outdoors from time to time and doing some crazy things. So just see what you can bring into your life to make yourself more happy about your own life. And notice all of those different impulses where you feel desires or envy or jealousy, and just notice what it's showing you, what you want. And desire is another special one, because there, especially, like, if you feel a desire towards a certain person, and you know, people say we have like types, but like, for me, I'm just gonna go with the example of men, you know, that we have a certain type of man that we are attracted of. And it's actually about those things that he has that I don't have. And I'm attracted to those because in some way I want them in my life and I'm not able to have them for myself. So, like, for example, I'm very bad with like any kind of mechanical, technical, handyman kind of thing. Like, anything happens with my car, I panic. Anything happens and breaks down in the house, I panic. So I tend to attract men and find men good, which are able to deal with that stuff. Or I have a certain desire for like wildness in my life, for some more craziness. And if I'm not able to do that myself, then I start getting attracted to men who have that embodied in them. So it's all about like coming together and becoming bigger, widening your whole range of possibilities. So if you have desires for certain things, you can be like, okay, what is this desire telling me? Why am I attracted to this? And then you can look, oh, this is behind it. How can I bring it into my life on my own? How can I do it without the other person? Because it might be possible. And then you know, it's not a problem if you have a desire and you just go for it and then it's fulfilled. But some of us have desires and then the head goes in the way and says, no, 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 you cannot do this is that, and blah, 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 right? So if you have this, you can find a way to manage that, what is behind the desire. And then it will bring just so much relaxation and peace to your system, because you will have that desire satisfied without necessarily going for that thing which you feel you shouldn't go for. And even if you go for that thing and you go for that thing again and again and again, there might still be a moment where you feel like, I keep on going through these men that are not actually doing me any good. I keep on ending up in toxic relationships. And why do I do this? Like, what in me is making me go for those men? What in me is like feeling so as if I need this in my life? So it can also be about this. Just looking at yourself and what is happening. What is happening in your life? What kind of things are you going for? What choices are you making? And just getting to know yourself. So these were already many of those negative emotions. I think another one I want to put out there is apathy and shame and fear, and all of those kind of emotions which make us be in a way like closed off, frozen in a way. Like especially shame will make us just close off. Apathy will just make us depressive and like have no desire for life. And fear would just, maybe make us go into a freeze or a flight reflex. Can also make us go into the fight reflex, but that is already pretty active. But all of those things can be very powerful tools, even though they feel so horrible. Fear, for example, is a very, very hard one to manage, because it will just instinctively, like through instinct, it will just put you into a place where you are not anymore able to handle that, what is going on. So it's very hard to transform that in the moment, but you can transform old fears. For example, an easy one, fear of spiders. If you have a fear of spiders, the easier way to go around is to become able to face it and putting yourself out there to this trigger point and working with that. Like you can begin with pet spiders. Like, I don't mean like pet spiders kept in a box, but like toy spiders, toy spiders you could begin with. Then you can go for little ones, then for bigger ones. Maybe for spiders in a place where you have those specialists with spiders who kind of make it possible for you to interact with them, like those kind of things. So you could try to consciously make that choice again and again to face your fear, and then in everyday life it will not be influencing you that much. And spiders are an easy one to go with, but there are harder ones. Fear of death, fear of survival, like how do you manage that? Fear of someone hurting you, it's hard, and it has a lot to do with self-confidence and trust and just facing it. So all of those fears will feel very overpowering for a very long time, until you find enough courage in yourself to do something about it. And this one is just very, very hard. Like there is no tool that I can really give you to manage that, other than this, putting yourself out there and trying it out and working with it. Because it's about reprogramming your reaction to that fear, and that is gonna take some time, and it's gonna take a lot of trust, a lot of working with yourself, working with bravery, with finding stability on yourself, becoming grounded, and not letting yourself be that much influenced through any fears that you have. And that's a working process. So be gentle with yourself in that way. If you feel frustrated, I'm not being able to let go of that fear. It's coming up again and again. It's good. If you become frustrated with yourself, it's a sign that you are ready to let it go in a way. That you have reached that point where you don't want it anymore, and that's good. So, keep on working with that. Keep on facing your fear and going for that. You can consciously put yourself in settings where you have to face it. Like claustrophobia, for example. You can, consciously create a safe space where you can face that fear. And that can be by having someone with you who will help you through that process, or putting yourself in a place where you feel like it's creating that surrounding, but it's not unsafe in any way. And that can be like some cartons around you which you can easily push away. It's way better than a closed off elevator which you cannot control, like things like that, for example. So just putting yourself out there and working with that fear. Okay, fear. Another one I said was apathy. Apathy is also very, very hard, because apathy will just leave you with very, very little energy to do anything. So with apathy, it's something that, like I said, is connected to depression. It will just leave you in like a very endless kind of cycle of having no energy, not being able to do anything, having no hope for the world, for anything, for your life, for your family, for the surroundings. It will just be a place where you feel hopeless, where you feel like you don't care, you're empty, nothing matters, everything is kind of gray and just meh. Right? And that can be a place which leads to suicidal thoughts. It can lead to any sort of food and eating disorders, to mental illnesses, things like that. And that one is very hard because it just goes into this downward spiral all the time and you just have no hope. So it's very hard to get out. And how to get out is actually by finding a spark of hope to go and to hang on to. And that's hard. It's hard to force yourself in a way to find some happiness to hang on to and to like keep on going. And that's the thing that helps, finding something that at least brings you a certain spark of joy. And that can be a person that you suddenly trust more. And speaking up about it might also help a lot, because you're suddenly, not alone in all of this. It's also a big part of this, loneliness, feeling so alone and not having no one to talk about. Nobody will understand. So finding people to communicate with and to trust is important in this. And also just finding something that brings you happiness. It could be certain food, it could be a certain hobby which you might find. For me, it was dancing that basically changed my life around. I finally found something which I was like, oh, this is actually worth living for. It's amazing. And it can be anything. It can be anything. And it might end up being an addiction, dancing can become an addiction, or reading books or watching movies, whatever. But it can be a necessary step in between of getting from that state to this state. For a lot of people, it's drugs. It's also not a good one, but it might be a way for you to be able to deal with all of that shit that you don't want to deal with. And then you have the drugs and you suddenly feel better, and you get to know how feeling better actually feels like, because it might have been so long that you're in the cycle of not feeling good that you don't actually remember anymore how it feels to feel good. So I think that's why most people don't understand addictions. Like, the people feel actually better, and that's why it's so hard to let that go. And we might need that addiction to later learn, oh, we can find that what we have had without those. There is actually things that are good, that make me feel happy. And I know now how to feel happy because I have experienced this through this addiction. So that might be a hopeful process. And I'm not saying find an addiction. I'm saying find something that will make you feel good. And if it becomes an addiction, then you have to deal with this addiction and it being addictive. And that is also hard. And that's a very huge topic in itself. So I'm gonna go for the last one of this negative topics that I wanted to go into, and that's shame. And shame is a hard one because shame comes with pride. And I feel in a way those two are very, very connected, because we will make ourselves seem bigger and very prideful, and not to feel shame and not to feel that we have no self-worth, that we are small and worthless. And our system will convince us that we don't feel shame. Then other people will not even think we have this topic because we come off as so, out there and so positive and so good. But actually underneath that are parts of you which are just compensating for that shame you feel, for that smallness that you feel. And it is also another hard one to deal with. And it's pretty similar as sadness and like just being in your heart space and just learning to hold yourself with all of those insecurities you might have. And letting all of that out and maybe acting it out, like becoming very small and worthless and just hiding away and just, trying that out. How does it actually feel to fully go into that space without acting all the time, without acting and making myself bigger than I am? How is it actually to be so vulnerable? Like, allow yourself to go deep into that space and experience it. It might be very healing for you to just let go of any sort of ways you are making up for it, and just going there for a moment, really trying it out. And all of those emotions are hard to manage. It's a big journey, and it becomes lighter and easier with time. But it's not something that will happen from today or tomorrow. It's a process about learning yourself and just doing this spiral and getting closer to the cause of all of these topics, transforming yourself and just keeping on going, finding that hope, finding something to live for, finding motivation in yourself to transform, and just keep on working on yourself. And then your whole life can change around, because you're increasing your vibration with letting go, with letting out any of these emotions which are more on the negative side. You are transforming your whole system. Your energy gets higher, vibration gets higher, so you also attract better things into your life. You're not gonna be attracting hurtful relationships anymore. You're not gonna be attracting accidents anymore. Everything will just change. And if it still happens, you will know that you are not listening to yourself in a way. You will know that you are avoiding something, that you are not listening to an emotion, that you are just not following the right path that your soul wants you to go to. So these are just ways for all of those emotions to show you what way to go. And that is beautiful if you learn to listen to those emotions. And most of us are just closed off totally. And I'm gonna look for a moment about, okay. So most of us are so closed off to our emotions that we don't even know where to begin, right? In general. So there is no magical tool to just kind of start feeling. And it's a process, like all of this, it's a process. And there are many different ways which you can handle and start feeling. It can be any of the tools I said before. It can be inner child work, breath work, any sort of retreat which goes into inner work, emotional release practices, the armoring. Like, there are so many different tools, and you just have to, in a way, try them out to find something that works for you. And then you can start to take care of this container called your body, which is the container for your soul. And then you can start to do emotional hygiene. And, just really working with all of these emotions that are there, transforming them, and changing your whole life. So I've talked a lot about those negative aspects. Let's talk about the light ones now, because they're just so much lighter, right? There is happiness, joy, peace, love, so much. Like bursting open and just being aliveness and acceptance, willingness, bravery, just so many different things you can feel, right, on this positive side. And some of us might not even know how those feel. Like, what is it? Like, I know it exists. Like, for most people, love is very confusing. Like, they know it is there and it exists, but is that what I'm feeling? Really, love? Is it, is it that? Because love, people tend to see love as a mix up of longing, desire, bit of jealousy, and, just kind of like this sexual kind of love. And maybe like acceptance. Oh, I'm feeling accepted, so I feel better, and it just kind of feels good. But love is actually something which makes you become open. It's like suddenly being able to breathe fully. It's selfless. There is no jealousy. There is just selfless love. It's being opening your heart and welcoming anyone in, welcoming your partner with all of those things that you have, all the bad sides, all the good sides, and also all of their good and bad sides, and just being welcoming, being loving, just, yeah, it's just kind of like cracking open in a way. I think that's the best way to put it. It's as if you are being cracked open from the inside. It's warm, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I feel like those good emotions are just so harder to put in a word in a way, because they are just beautiful. It's like when I feel into them, I don't want to be talking about them. I want to be just, this feels good. Just feeling into them. So there's that. And then there's, for example, peace. Like, how does peace actually feel like? Peace is also not something that like has a way for the head to understand it. No emotions really have, the brain is not there to understand emotions and to feel emotions. It's there to go around with thoughts and make conscious choices and being able to handle things. But your emotional body is about emotions, and if you really want to feel them, you have to go into that, letting go of your brain and just going into the emotions. And for example, peace, it's like a space where everything is as it is. Everything is good in a way, even if it's bad. You suddenly accept all the different parts of life. You feel settled. Your system quiets down. You are just okay is not the right word. You're just, I'm just gonna use okay because I'm missing a better word, but it's not a good one for this. But you're just okay with anything. And anything is fine. So it's like a very, very positive way. It's a welcoming space. And it's also beautiful. And for example, joy and happiness, those can be things that are like very childlike. You can have like childlike joy. And we have become so disconnected from that through from just running around, jumping into paddles, playing around, being a bit crazy and out there and like weird, And that is the way to go, reconnecting to those places in you that just want to be a bit giggly and, funny and just feeling joyful. Because why not? Why shouldn't we be feeling this way? Why can't we just wonder at the clouds and how beautiful they are? Why can't we just enjoy life? And there's so much judgment on people that are dressing weirdly or that are jumping around in a place where they shouldn't, and they have learned to just go for it. And it's something beautiful. It can be something that you can learn to do too. Just trusting yourself to go for your own happiness without worrying about what the society thinks, without worrying about what you think of yourself, and just going for that. Learning about the little things that make you happy. Finding happiness in every small bit. Like I have a small puzzle here, and that can be a thing which is nice and which can bring me happiness because I can play around with it and it can drop and I can test out gravity like I did as a kid. So you can reconnect to all of those spaces, and that's just so much fun. Yeah. So that's also connected to wonder and curiosity, also things which we can see perfectly in children. Just, playing minutes and becoming so absorbed by something which we just find fascinating. And that's the most perfect way to learn new things, to discover life, by just, finding fascination for that topic, finding fascination for how something is built, how something works, and not, going with it in the brain, like, but just letting it go naturally, like having this curiosity as a child and just exploring with that curiosity. And that's also something beautiful. Like I feel like any emotion I can talk about in this space is going to be beautiful and wonderful. Yeah. For all of these emotions, especially like feeling into them and how to go around them, I especially recommend working with like the embodiment practices you have. So you can basically choose an emotion and choose one side of the spectrum and be like, this is the space where I don't feel happy at all. There is no happiness in my life. And this is the space where there is just happiness. I'm full of happiness, just only happiness. And then you feel into, okay, how does it feel to have no happiness? What is that like? Okay, my body feels very heavy and there's like a lot of unwillingness to life. I don't feel good at all. I just want to lie down and do nothing. It feels like apathy in a way. Yeah. Okay. I'm just dropping my body, it becomes heavier, and I'm gonna go out of it, coming back into this neutral space between the two, letting it go for a moment, and then going into the other one. How does just happiness feel like? And I'm noticing I'm feeling like alive. I feel like electricity is spreading through my body. I feel like I want to do things. Like I want to go out and explore and jump around. I feel like, oh, this is very cool. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go back again. So this was just, I'm gonna shake it out again. This was just a way for me to show you how you can explore emotions more, how you can explore those things more. And this is embodiment practices. This can also be called working with the morphogenetic field, and just like finding two spots in the room, for example, where you feel that way or that way. You can even put like piece of paper with anger on them, or happiness or peace, and then going into that spot and letting it overcome you, letting peace fuel you, for example. And it's going to be something you can work with and try out again and again and again until it becomes very easy for you to try. And then you're just going to increase your ability to feel, and then it's also going to be easier for you to experience that in everyday life. And that's beautiful. So yeah, we have those two aspects, right? All of those positive and negative emotions. And how is it like to fully live both and kind of transcend that? Because there is a space where there is like no judgment anymore. It's not good or bad anymore. It just is, you know? You are there like from a higher perspective, from that level of the soul, spirit. And where suddenly you're like, everything that I'm going through for life, all the good things, all the bad things, they all have a benefit for my own growth. So it doesn't really matter, this experience, this past thing I have had, this emotion. It doesn't matter if I view it as negative or positive. In a way, even if it's negative, it's still gonna be positive to my evolution as a whole, as a being. It's going to still bring something into the growth of my life. It's going to bring something from my soul experiencing this. Even if I feel like my life is just full on horrible and everything is bad, on the soul level, it's going to be like, oh, I'm now experiencing depression for such a long time. It's very interesting to be in this space. Yeah, I'm doing this for this lifetime, and next lifetime we can try something else. Things like that, you know? Because on that higher level, in that space, everything is more neutral. There is no good or bad. There is no polarity in this way that we experience it now. Everything is just is, you know? Without judgment. Without it being good or bad. It's just is. It's a part of life. It belongs here on this earth in our life. It belongs. We have the polarity. So we have the good and bad emotions. We have the stuff we cannot deal with, and then we have the stuff we want to deal with. It's just life. So emotions are also just part of life. And they can become a very beautiful part of life. They can become something which you look forward to feeling. You know, releasing those emotions, feeling anger can become so amazing. Like when I feel anger now, I'm like, yes, let's scream. This is how it feels like, you know? It's just like, oh, yeah. And it feels so good because it gives like so much energy. It gives like a holy rage. It gives motivation to change things, to have this drive for life, to want things. And that's a way which you can use anger in a positive way. So all of these emotions have a benefit. They really do. And if you feel sad and shame and apathy and all of those things which make you small and fear, it's also okay. You can go into that and you can just give yourself time to just shake out of fear and just be small. And your whole system might be grateful for you to do that. And to have like the space to just let go and open up. And it's just life. So I hope I have given you a lot of insights about all the different emotions, on how they might feel and what is going on in your life. And it's just important to do this emotional hygiene and to dig deep under all of those layers of the secondary emotions that might have gathered up through your life, and just working through them, going deeper and deeper and deeper until you find something which is really the cause of all of this, and then transforming that, integrating that, and becoming like a new person, learning how to handle life again, learning how to make choices in a new way, and just becoming purer and purer in your energy, vibrating higher and becoming closer to what you truly are, your own purpose in life. Okay, so I'm just gonna have a quick look at my notes if I have something that I have forgotten. Oh yeah, so one last thing about health and illness that I wanted to say. It's like that, like the soul and the spirit, they send us lessons into life, and our guides help us to grow, alright? And emotions can be signs that we should change something. Like I told you about envy and jealousy, and that might show you a lot about you. Sadness can show you a lot about you. And anger can show you a lot about you. So if you keep ignoring those signs, those emotions will then come into your system. They will stay there for a long time. They will physically make your body different. So for example, you might have a spot that will become tighter and tighter again, and more tight. You might have your digestive system suddenly causing you problems. You might have your knee hurting, things like that. And they will be just signs that you have been ignoring the signs that come earlier. The signs, the thoughts come usually here first, and then come the emotions. And when we ignore that too, it comes into the body. And we have to learn how to work with the emotions and with the thoughts first for those things not to happen. But if they do happen, it's going to be about cleaning your whole system, about integrating, about doing that inner work, about letting all of those emotions out, and that can help you, that can transform any illness you have been feeling. It's like, for example, cancer, all of those cells coming to your body, it's literally your body trying to protect itself. It's accumulating all that negativity in one place for it not to be everywhere until it metastasizes, because you're not dealing with it. So if you deal with things, many things can change. Some things can actually become lesser. And I'm not telling you this is like the cure, this is the thing that will change any disease. It might not. It really very much depends on your own path. So I'm not saying I know like this is the perfect solution for everyone. It all depends on the people and the different topics that you have. But in general, if you start to really do inner work, listen to your soul, listen to your intuition, listen to your emotions, listen to the impulses and insights that come into your body, listening to your body and the signs. If you truly are aligned with yourself and your higher beings, then you will go through life healthy. You will go through life happy and aligned and grounded. And the diseases that might come your way, it might be like some light blocked nose because you have had enough of something. Or it might be like something hurting in your body, but you will notice that sign. You will notice it and suddenly be like, oh, I have this pain in my lower back. Why is it there? Okay, lower back, that stands for sacral chakra. It's probably something with sexuality, with the energy not flowing that good. Like, what can I do about it? What kind of emotion can I release? Is there maybe a technique I know? So it's gonna look like that. And then you will notice the body signs, and you will not have to be forced to go through any serious kind of illness connected with that. But if you ignore those, you might have to, because it's just about making you more and more aware. This whole thing is about making you become aware, making you reconnect with yourself again, becoming aware of unconscious of what you actually are. And just going through life with that consciousness and just following the path that you are here for and finding that. Okay, I think that's enough of what I wanted to talk about on this part. So I hope you enjoyed it, and try all the different tools out, and just bear in mind that it's a process, because you have been going through life already maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe longer, shorter, with that way that you have been living. And now you suddenly want to change things. You suddenly want to learn how to feel. You want to do inner work. And it's not gonna be like this. It's gonna take a while, because you have been living that way for so many years. And now you have to reprogram all of the past to learn to handle life in a new way. And that can take some time. So be patient also with yourself, and don't put that much judgment and be so hard with yourself. Just be mindful of the process, and just love yourself in that way by which you give yourself time and space. Not forcing it, but just going with it, trusting that this is the right thing you are doing. Thank you.